This is going to be collection reveal video number 4, and this is going to be a special video within the collection reveal series because this is going to be the secret rare edition. And what I'm going to be doing is showing 10 PSA first edition secret rare cards from the Yu-Gi-Oh sets. And it's going to be cards just from the sets, nothing from like the promo, the prismatic secret rares, or anything like that. Just these secret rares out of the first 8 Yu-Gi-Oh sets, those first 8 iconic sets. And so starting out at number 10, we have the Serpent Knight Dragon. And this card was never really good at all. I mean, it's a 2 sacrifice for a 2350 card, so it's basically as bad as Gaia the Fierce Knight. But it's a popular card and well known, and a kind of an iconic card just because of the artwork for the card mostly, but also because it was used in the anime a little bit by Rex Raptor in his duel against Joey. And then also it's a secret rare from Magic Ruler, the third set. So just for those reasons alone, that's what makes the card valuable. Uh, Obviously, just never a playable card. It's just not good enough to be played. You know, you're talking about a Summon Skull can run over this thing easily, and it's only a 1 sacrifice. But still, a nice card and an iconic card, and something for any Yu-Gi-Oh collector to add to their collection. And then at number 9, we have Magic Cylinder. This is a card that obviously was used in the anime a lot by Yugi, always pairing it with either his Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl. It's also was a really good card within the Yu-Gi-Oh meta for a while. Back when Burn was hugely popular, you could pair this card with, just other things that would allow you to stall out the game and go for direct damage against your opponent. So you can, use it like Gravity Bind and Swords of Revealing Light and stuff like that, and then also like the Stealth Bird that would allow you just to do direct effect damage, and then Magic Cylinder as well would just add that damage on when you have 3 of these in your deck. You're just basically sending direct attacks right at your opponent and chipping away at their life points. It eventually got phased out because while this card was good for reducing your opponent's life points and maybe saving one of your own monsters, it didn't affect the field at all. And that's what really the Yu-Gi-Oh meta turned into eventually, was just whoever controlled the field was going to control the game. And so it became more of a field control game than a just go at your opponent's life points game. And then at number 8, we have Vampire Lord from Dark Crisis, graded Gem 10. And Dark Crisis, obviously a hugely iconic set. It was printed shorter than a lot of the other sets, so a lot of the Dark Crisis booster boxes that are first edition and the first edition packs are quite valuable, quite expensive, and can be hard to come by. A lot of the Dark Crisis cards were not really playable so much. Some of them were, but a lot of them were more iconic because of how they were used in the anime, or just because of the card itself. Something like, Exodia Necros just wasn't that playable of a card. It was fairly hard to use, but because it had Exodia on it, obviously, it made it incredibly popular. Vampire Lord here was an almost playable card. It was kind of good, but you almost had to always have something to power it up because being a 1 sacrifice for just 2,000 attack made it fairly weak and easy to run over. You're talking about something like Goblin Attack Force or Zombra the Dark could beat this card, and those are both 4 stars. So you almost had to have like an Axe of Despair or some kind of power up on Vampire Lord to make him actually really strong out in the field. And at that point, you're kind of using 2 cards to where just like 1 card would probably be better than just the Vampire Lord. Then at number 7, we have the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. I made a whole video about the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon and how it's fluctuated in price, specifically the first edition PSA 10 version. It's obviously an iconic card, not only being linked to Seto Kaiba because it's a Blue Eyes, but also being linked to Pegasus because it is a toon monster as well. And then it's also from Magic Ruler, the third set, like I talked about with the Serpent Knight Dragon, just, one of those old vintage Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and then iconic because it got used within the first arc of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, the Duelist Kingdom arc, and was a huge part of the Seto Kaiba Pegasus first duel when Pegasus stole Seto Kaiba's Blue Eyes and then turned it against him and made it more powerful by making it a toon dragon instead of just a regular Blue Eyes. So it's highly iconic for all those reasons, and that's pretty much the biggest reason why this card has such a huge price tag on it. Also being that it's a secret rare, it's higher in rarity. But yeah, a secret rare Blue Eyes card is just something that people obviously gravitate towards, with just the regular Blue Eyes being so incredibly popular as well. And the price has fluctuated on this card a lot. If I made this video like several, maybe a year ago or so, this would probably be higher on the list. It's kind of hard differentiating between the prices of all of these secret rare cards, because a lot of them are similar in prices. So, I mean, if within a few months some of these cards might switch around in price tag and like be different on the list, but it's mostly just going through the 10 secret rares that I have in my collection. And then at number 6, we have the Thousand Dragon. Obviously an iconic card for Joey. He used it in the anime all the time. It was, for the longest time, one of his trump cards, using the Time Wizard and the Baby Dragon to make the Thousand Dragon. That was kind of his combo, his thing that he used. And then speaking of those two cards, along with the Thousand Dragon, we do have the First Edition Metal Raiders Baby Dragon. Just a common card, so not that hard to get. It is in Gem 10 quality, but still, it's something that you wanted to pair with the Thousand Dragon, just because, why not? And Joey used the Baby Dragon a lot of times, even without having to pair it with the Time Wizard to make the Thousand Dragon. A lot of times you just see him pop up and play him as just a normal monster. And then along with these two, we of course have the First Edition Metal Raiders Gem 10 Time Wizard. Super interesting card. Not something that most serious players used in their decks. It's more of like a YOLO card. Sometimes, you just add it into your deck just for the hell of it, have fun or whatnot. But super highly sought after card, and very interesting card. And it's also got a cool story about it within like the anime, how this was like the really big rare card that Yugi gave to Joey because he believed in him and wanted him to, become a better duelist and whatnot. So, got the whole Thousand Dragon, Time Wizard, and Baby Dragon set here for the fusion. And then speaking of Metal Raiders secret rares, we have the Gate Guardian at number 5. And Metal Raiders is kind of interesting because the set can have ink fading on it, I guess is what you would call it. If you notice with this Gate Guardian card, you can see that it's an effect monster, but it almost looks like a normal monster because of how faded the ink is on the card, on the surface of the card. And that's the whole card too. Like, you can see that these stars just aren't as bright orange as what they are on this, Toon Dragon. So here's an effect monster, here's another effect monster, but the Gate Guardian looks like it's a normal monster compared to the Blue Eyes Toon Dragon here. And so, yeah, you can get those variations, and I find them incredibly interesting. There's one card on eBay that's a First Edition Metal Raiders Gem Mint 10 Mirror Force, and that card is so faded that the usual bright red color that you see with trap cards, it actually almost looks like a normal monster card too, just how faded the ink is on that card. And so you can get some really interesting variations between these cards. And I do think that these like faded out looking Metal Raiders cards are going to be highly sought after. They're going to be, I think, sort of similar to like the Legend of Blue Eyes first print run cards, where people just put a higher value on these faded ink cards just because they're so interesting and unique, and something that gives you like a different thing to go after for Metal Raiders. Metal Raiders on its own is a highly iconic set. So having another variation of cards to collect in it is something that I think collectors are just going to highly strive after and be excited to go for and collect. And then along with the Gate Guardian, we also have the Kazijin, the Sangha of the Thunder, and the Suijin. And you can see that the Suijin is a little bit faded too. It actually looks almost like a normal monster as well, even though it is obviously an effect. And then, like the Kazijin, it's not as bad. So this one's a little more faded. Probably not as bad as the Gate Guardian, but you can still tell. So yeah, the entire Gate Guardian lineup right there. And then at number 5, we have a newly added card to the collection. Just got back from PSA. The Injection Fairy Lily from Legacy of Darkness. Obviously everybody knows about the huge centering issues with Legacy of Darkness. and Injection Fairy Lily being a secret rare, hard to get, and then all incredibly hard to grade too, because you have to have that nice centering on the card and not have it be completely off-centered like so many Injection Fairy Lily cards are. So yeah, I was super excited to get this added into my collection, especially it's just so much better than the fact that I ended up pulling this out of a 36 pack booster box, and then it did have the centering to get the Gem 10 grade. So just all around really lucky in that sense, and really glad to add this card into the collection because it's such a hard chase to go after. And then at number 3 we have the Chaos Emperor Dragon. So the one that I sent off to PSA just here recently ended up getting a 9, which I figured would, but that's okay because we already had the 10 in the collection. Yeah, so I ended up buying this for not too bad a price, I don't think. But super iconic card, been on the ban list forever. People have kind of debated a lot whether this card should come off the ban list or not. Over in the OCG, the Japanese trading card game, original trading card game is what it stands for. Chaos Emperor Dragon is actually not even limited. It's running at 3 and no one uses it at all. That's kind of an unfair example to give though, because the OCG also has a lot of other cards that aren't on the ban list that can kind of be used against the Chaos Emperor Dragon. So it's very hard to compare the OCG to the TCG as far as the ban lists go because they're so highly different. So if some cards on the TCG weren't on the ban list, then yeah, Chaos Emperor Dragon wouldn't be as strong as a card as it is. But because some of those cards are on the ban list, Chaos Emperor Dragon is just incredibly strong, and it's so easy to summon, and it's so easy to use the effect. But super iconic card out of Invasion of Chaos. The other secret rare out of Invasion of Chaos being like something that no one really wants or talks about at all, the Invader of Darkness, but the Chaos Emperor Dragon, obviously, just a huge card. And then coming in at number 2 is another newly added card to the collection, the Gem 10 First Edition Jinzo. I talked about it when I received this card from PSA, but Pharaoh's Servant, a lot of times you can have centering issues with the set, and that's usually the biggest downfall of these Jinzo and other Pharaoh's Servant cards. But this one was spot on with the centering, and ended up getting the Gem 10 grade, which was super good for me, and I was happy about. But yeah, Jinzo, obviously a super iconic card, not only just because it was used in the anime, but just because of how good Jinzo was. There was just a time during the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG where everyone wanted Jinzo, everyone had Jinzo because it was such a good card. Just a 1 sacrifice for a 2400 monster, and then now your opponent can't play any trap cards. So trap cards were way more prevalent in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game back within the early sets than what they are compared now. You had stuff like Mirror Force and Solemn Judgment and all those other trap cards being played that were just game-turning trap cards, and with Jinzo out in the field, your opponent couldn't use any of them. And then the number 1 secret rare card out of my collection is going to be the first edition Legacy or Legend of Blue Eyes Gem 10 Trihorn Dragon, and this is actually a first print run. And so there's ways to tell about the first print run. One of the ways to tell just right off the bat looking at the card is that the purple holofoil on the back here on the card behind the Trihorn Dragon itself is much darker than what it is on most other Trihorn Dragon copies. And so when it's a lot darker of a purple holofoil on the card, that's usually a good indicator of it being a first print run. But the really big solidifier of a LOB card being the first print run is if the texture of the card has got that waves within it, or a textured surface, which it's really hard for me to show because this is in the case. But if you do get the light to hit it just right, you can actually see like the texture within the card on the surface. And so yeah, the first print run has just been really picking up steam as far as Yu-Gi-Oh! Collecting. People are going nuts over them. It's kind of something that a lot of people already foresaw coming. Even before now, people were really getting hyped about the first print run LOB cards. And they're starting to really climb in price now. So I got this kind of early before the price spike really hit, and I'm really glad about that. and just an awesome card to have in any collection. So those are my top 10 secret rare cards. Obviously, some of them are missing off the list. The Dark Magician being obviously the biggest one, and then also something like the Gaia the Dragon Champion wasn't within these 10 cards. So still have a few more that I need to add to the collection. But overall, pretty solid, I would say. And this is Trading Cards Forever, and as always, thank you for watching.